how is this misinformation allowed to just keep on going?
But that's what the rich have been doing for years, bro. They own the narrative. They own the media.
Grok mixed in comments about violence in South Africa to answers not related to the topic. In one example, a user asked Grok, "Where is this?" in reference to a photo of a walking path. The user didn't mention South Africa, and the photo does not appear to be from that country. Grok responded, "The query asks about the location of a scenic image likely not tied to South Africa's farm attack debate." Later in the response, Grok said on the broader topic implied, farm attacks in South Africa are real and brutal, and went on to elaborate on such claims. It's not immediately clear why the AI bot has begun bringing up the topic unprompted. Elon Musk has been ramping up his rhetoric on the issue.
There is a book, and shout out to Mighty Jamie. He suggested this book on his page. It's called Manufacturing Consent, you know? And it's by Noam Chomsky. Very difficult to get, and another author. But it's essentially about how the rich people always make sure that they control narratives. Now, if you notice how the rich always have, the ultra-rich always have a stake in big media, right? Rupert, he owns ENCA through Remgrow. Yeah. ENCA is owned by HCI, which you'd know. Remember, they own YFM, ENCA and them. And he owns it through Remgrow. And Rupert Murdoch owned Fox, didn't he?
And all the newspapers around the world.
And all the newspapers around the world. It's very important as a rich person to own a means of communication, to push your narrative, to push your agenda, right? And you hence manufacturing consent. With Zuma, he's not a saint. He's done the wrong things. Yeah. But there was a big campaign to brand him a certain way. And you can do that by setting an agenda in the media on these platforms, be it news platforms, newspapers, and you manufacture consent. Hence, then you meet someone. It's like what you were saying last week when you meet someone and they're busy throwing out big words like misogyny, misogynist. And you're like, what does it mean? What about him is misogynistic? And then they're like, you know? And because they keep hearing this and it's clear now why he bought Twitter. And remember, he bought Twitter and he helped Trump through Twitter, through podcasting and all these other platforms because they said they want to end fake news. Remember? Yeah. He bought Twitter to say he's protecting free speech. Yeah. That's what he said.
But look what's happening now.
And now he is pulling the usual billionaire trick.
Because of StarLink.
Yeah.
Industry speaks to the fact as to there's no indication as to how many jobs the StarLink enterprise would create in South Africa. And one knows that it would be operating remotely and based in the United States of America and undercutting the local telecommunications industry. So we are a threat to jobs if there was an introduction of a remotely run Starlink satellite company in South Africa. And it's something that we must take into serious consideration because American companies that come and set up in South Africa do not ordinarily create jobs. And there's no blueprint as to how Starlink would do that in South Africa. The second part, as it relates to national security, Elon Musk has been at the forefront of running a disinformation campaign that seeks to delegitimize South Africa's position of calling out Israel's genocide against the people of Palestine. So they want to say that we are committing a genocide so that our voice loses moral credibility to expose the genocide being perpetuated by Israel.
Yeah. So if using his billionaire trick of change the narrative.
Israel. So if someone of that stature, that nature, and who's been conducting such activities, and even recently there was exposés by American media outlets that he has manipulated the artificial intelligence function called Grok on the X platform that he owns to perpetuate the lie that there is a white genocide in South Africa. So if he can do that to instill a campaign against our nation, how much more when he's going to have access to our data through a telecommunications company and control our telecommunications sphere through a satellite? So that poses a national security risk that must be averted.
He spent billions building a Grok. And now he reprograms Grok to push false narratives.
That's fucked up, man.
Bro, breaking the thing that you built.
Okay, but here's the thing, bro. If he can push this propaganda, what else are they doing behind the scenes that we don't know?
Yes. And what else is he going to do with StarLink? Because you're proving yourself to be a very unscrupulous, shady character. So
'Cause even-
how are we going to give you that power for you to set up shop, satellites and all these things and provide data to South Africans? What information are you going to steal, and how are you going to use it, and how are you going to use it for your own benefit, even if it's not for the better good of humanity? Because spreading lies about white genocide does humanity no good. It ruins our country, in fact, big time. It's got serious consequences.
Yeah, but that's his aim, bro. So it seems to me like, once they said no to Starlink, it's like, oh, okay, let me show you.
Refugees. You are just a case study of white flight dressed up as martyrdom. You're not escaping violence, you're escaping equality. South Africa didn't chase you away. You ran. Yes, South Africa is one of the most violent countries in the world. Yes, brutality exists. But let's be honest, violence affects all communities, not just white farmers. Black, coloured, Indian, and yes, white people are all targets of a national crime crisis. What we have is a breakdown in safety, not a white genocide. This is not ethnic cleansing, it's criminal collapse, and running to the US won't fix it. You are part of a 7% minority, but somehow still manages to control over 70% of the wealth. That is not persecution, that's privilege on a guilt trip. And let's be real, if we tried to relocate just half of the Afrikaans population, it would take decades, billions in logistics, and you'd still end up culturally homeless in a country that don't want your apartheid baggage. You're not brave, you're not victims. You're scared of a world where you don't get to be in charge, and that makes the rest of the Afrikaans community cringe, because you make us look weak. South Africa is broken, and it's our problem to solve. So if you don't have the spine to do so, stay gone. Every white South African is racist. Every single one. Including you. Including me. We were born into a racist country, raised by racist systems, taught by racist textbooks, and disciplined by racist norms. Unless you've been consciously deprogrammed, that requires pain, effort, and education, you are still operating from a racist framework.
Yeah. Nah, man. So I just want to say shout out to South Africans because all these lies have been peddled, and they were telling this false narrative, these fake news of South Africa, and you know that you're losing a battle when you got to cheat. So it was a war of information, the misinformation about white genocide, and South Africans under any big tweet, Twitter or X account that was talking about this white genocide, there was always a Chris Excel or a random South African who would say, yo, dispel it quickly. And then it would get a lot of retweets and a lot of likes. And we just got ahead of them. The owner of Twitter, we beat him home game on his own platform, home game on his own home base, Twitter. And now he needed to go and cheat. So that's an admission of defeat. And it's average South Africans who just decided they're going to put country duty first and misspell a lot of things they come across on social media. And the guy is now cheating.
Yeah, and you must check in the comments, in all the YouTube videos where they're reporting about this, the South Africans, black,
That's
white.
who I'm shouting out.
Yeah, and they're like,
Yeah.
nah, this ain't happening.
Lies.
Nah,
White
lies.
people are rich here. Like literally, a lot of them are living nice. And those that aren't living nice, you may find they got problems.
Yes.
They don't want to work, they're lazy, or they're on drugs or what.
Do you guys have a drug problem?
No.
Yes.
Yes.
Whatever. But a black guy has to be a hardworking, diligent, honest, and still qualified, mind you, and still might not get the luck of getting the opportunities to earn a living for his family.
Against our nation, how much more when he's going to have access to our data through a telecommunications company and control our telecommunications sphere through a satellite? So that poses a national security risk that must be averted.
Yeah. In America right now, the understanding is that a Chinese company which owns TikTok is being pressured to sell its American interests to a local company there. And in part, the question of national security is being put up as prominent. Why do you think that there is this double standard that in a country which says, like South Africa, which says there's got to be a local ownership of any international company that comes to set up shop here, and we've got to play by those rules. But in America, things have got to be different. Why do you think that this is the double standard that they want to impose on other countries?
I think it's the hypocrisy of imperialism. It seems that this hypocrisy and double standard wants to be applied in South Africa and towards Africans, and it's something that we must reject in its entirety. We must protect local jobs in the telecommunications sphere in South Africa, but we must protect the integrity of our national security. And Elon Musk has represented himself as someone who poses a threat to the integrity of national security in South Africa. He has mobilized the American president, who he is dragging by the ear, to treat us like a persona non grata, to expel our diplomats, to declare genocide when none of that is perceivably recognizable, and for him to control the telecommunications infrastructure of our country when he's exhibited his displeasure with our nation and his ability and capacity to distort information to suit his own agenda, is a risk we should not take.
I think we as white people, especially in South Africa and in the United States as well, where we've been conditioned with internal racism, we've inherited something that tells us that we are superior and that we deserve to be at the top. And I think that needs to be deconstructed through education and not proximity. Otherwise, you'll never be equal.